Hey, welcome back. This is number 3 of the video series, and hopefully this is working good. So I have another non-math one. Pretty soon I'll have some math ones, don't worry. This next book's called No Excuses by Brian Tracy. He talks about the power of self-discipline. Very, very interesting book. It took me some time to read this one because there's a lot of information into it. But it's called No Excuses and the Power of Self-Discipline. And Brian Tracy is an extensive worldwide personal studies in business, sales, management, marketing, economics, and he has a big company. He's a consultant, training, person develop. He's a pretty much a worldwide person. He's wrote many books on this. There's a couple more books that I would like to show you and offer later on in the series, but it's really good. But let's talk about this book a little bit. He talks about self-discipline. Self-discipline is a learned characteristic that you should develop very early on in age. Me being a martial artist, and I'm a brown belt in karate and stuff, in Shotokan karate, that really taught me a lot of self-discipline when I was younger. And self-discipline, as he's defined, is the ability to do what you should do, when you should do it, whether you feel like it or not. And it's a way to kind of put yourself at ease, to make sure things get done in an organized fashion. You kind of discipline yourself to make sure things get done. And it's a lot of thought process. But self-discipline has to be learned. You have to really learn yourself before you know others. And he talks about this, and a couple of things he talks about is the path of least resistance. Sometimes hard work is avoided because people don't want to do the work. And you always hear the expression that work smarter, not harder. I think that's a little bit opposites, because I think both should be active. I think you should work harder, but you should work smarter as well. They should be connected. And he talks about the path of least resistance is that people like to seek shortcuts because we live in a fast-paced world with technology and people and things get done. But sometimes taking that path of least resistance doesn't give you the full rundown of the activity that you're doing, or the skill. You got to slow down. You got to go through the whole thing. You got to go through the trenches. He talks about the expensity factor. And people, we seek the fastest and easiest way to get things done. They want it right now, with little or no concern for the long-term consequences of their behavior. We expect that to happen. We expect that I want to get this done as fast as I can. And I think that we need to slow down sometimes, because if we're expected to do things very fast, we're not going to get everything in depth as we need to have done. You could be a famous architect, or maybe you want to be an architect, but if you take the fast way, you're not going to learn all the little hidden details about, maybe this foundation should be better with this foundation, or this structure is different than this structure. You kind of don't want to work things too fast. And you want to do a lot of self-mastery. Self-mastery is you have to control your emotions. Remember, this is all built on self-discipline. So what Brian Tracy is trying to do is that he's trying to kind of build the pyramid effect. Is that you have kind of like up here is self-discipline, and how are you working up to self-discipline? That's how I think of it. It's like a pyramid. Is that self-mastery is like you have to control your emotions. Yeah, people get upset. We get upset at ourselves, and sometimes that can destroy ourselves, and we can self-destruct ourselves that way. And you don't want to do that. You want to take control of your feelings, and your expressions, and your attitude, and your personality a little bit. You want to do a lot of long-term thinking. Sometimes you have to take sacrifices. You got to have sleepless nights on things. You gotta maybe not go to that party that you wanted to go to. You may have to make some sacrifices. It's painful at first, but at least that in the long run you get things done. You have to have that social control, that in control person. Sometimes you have to delay gratification. Everybody wants things really instant. Part of it, that's our civilization. That's our culture. We want things as fast as we can without the work. And sometimes you have to delay that. It might take a couple months to have this skill done. When I teach math, we're learning the quadratic, and we learn the quadratic formula. Negative x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. That formula that we should learn in school when Algebra 1. I tell my students that just you're not going to learn it the first day, the second day. You might learn it in a week. It takes time, and you got to slow yourself down, and that's okay. But you also want to have a habit forming. And a habit is something that you're doing periodically every single time, and after a while, you don't think about it. And sometimes bad ones come up, like if you come home from work and you drink and drink and drink, and then you do it every single day, it's going to affect you, your health or whatever. And sometimes your ego, you're in your head, you have Sigmund Freud. He said that there's three things of being a person. One is ego, your id, your ego, and your superego. You're balancing out all these emotions in your head. You're thinking, and that's really hard for people to balance, because if you don't have a strong enough ego, then you can just say, you know what, I'm going to do what I can. I'm going to do what I want, and then you don't think about the consequences later. You gotta have to take care of yourself. And so Brian Tracy talks about failure is not an accident. It's a behavior. So people fail because sometimes they have no choice, but they might just want to. They set themselves up for failure. They want to. And they have a negative, a fixed mindset. That's just how I am. I'm going to fail anyway. And that's the behavior. And Brian Tracy says that, we act that way because we are taught that way. So you keep learning, because when you learn, you have a behavioral change. Learning is a behavioral change. When you get smarter, hopefully your mind changes. Your neurons start to connect more synapses. And you develop your self-esteem, your self-respect, and your personal pride. It takes considerable willpower to always do the right thing. It's hard to do the right thing, but sometimes what is the right thing? It just, and it takes a lot of willpower. Willpower is energy, mind and thinking. Wisdom cannot be developed in private through study and reflection. Wisdom can be developed in private through study and reflection. Wisdom is something that you're gaining always. Your character can be developed only in the give and take daily life. A character is who you are, how you act, how you belong, and you express that through every day of your life. It is only when you're under pressure, when you are forced to choose one way or another. Very interesting. Sea captains, you want to test on a ship. If you want to test your crew or test who your crew is, test them in rough waters, because that's where the trueness comes out of their skills and reliableness. Yeah. So, you kind of say, here you are and here's where you're going to be, or here's where you want to be. And that's very hard. It's, your personality character goes through there. And if you're forced to get from there to there, hopefully you can make it and do it. And your character is how you act, your values, and respect yourself. And it comes with a lot of self-esteem. Self-esteem is how you value yourself. Very important. A lot of people have low self-esteem because they just don't value themselves. I don't know why. I think that might be just a nature versus nurture thing. Most people grow up believing that if someone else goes wrong, someone else will be responsible. Ooh. Yeah, I don't know what to say about that one. But let me read this one again. Most people grow up believing that if something goes wrong, someone else is responsible. Yeah, if something goes wrong in life that you think, oh, I'm going to blame them, they're responsible, but I pretty much did all the work. If my spouse and I are yelling at each other and I call that person a bad or a terrible word, you did that. You did that. Take responsibility for yourself. Don't blame somebody else. Sometimes a victim, it comes out. If you want to play the victim card, there's a lot of adults that play the victim card, and they say, they grow up deep in guilt, unworthiness, and underservingness, negative feelings about themselves, and when they're being attacked, their cognitive biases come in, and they start to defend themselves because they feel like a victim, but they're not being a victim because maybe you're just talking about them. You're talking about them in a responsible, rational way. You're not trying to guilt them anything. You're just trying to have a nice conversation. But they like to play that victim card because they think that they're being attacked. And then Brian Tracy talks about people do not want to accept responsibility. That's a big part. The common denominator of all people is the desire to be happy. We all want to be happy. And I think that's very true. What he was trying to say in his book is that, the common denominator is that we all want to have some sort of happiness in our life. And define happiness, I don't know. And the more self-discipline you have, the better you're going to have, and the less excuses that you're going to have in life. So if you're not good at something, you'll be like, well, it's the ball's fault. It's it's the golf ball. If I'm playing golf, it's the ball's fault. No, they're not good enough right now. And it's not making excuses. And it's really how you respond to things that makes you who you are. It is not possible to accept responsibility and remain angry at the same time. Ooh, he talks about that, if you have responsibility, you can't be angry at the same time. You have to accept. You have to be a mental adult. You have to be mature. It's the law of cause and effect. If this happens, this might happen over here. Some people are actually losing value each year, declining ability, not continue upgrading knowledge. He talks about, if you want to be good at something and you're not doing it, you're not building your skill level, don't make excuses because you're not doing it. You're just don't want to do it, I guess. You're not finding the time. You're lazy. You're being negligible a little bit. If you want to be better at something, don't make excuses. Oh, I'm not smart enough. Or I can't get at resources enough. I can't talk to people. Stop saying that, he says, and just keep upgrading your knowledge. Most people learn how to do this in their job. Most people learn how to do their job in the first year, and then they never get any better. Very important. They stay stagnant. I read in a college book, this was many years ago, there was a section in the college book about jobs, about careers, and it says that after the first 2 years of any job, people quit and they go to another job. They get bored. Very interesting, I think. So you always want to keep upgrading yourself. He calls it the law of accumulation. Accumulation means that accumulation. All right, accumulation means that you're putting everything together into a big old bubble. You're trying to accumulate all this information to make yourself better, I guess, right? And he says that treat people as they are valuable and important. Treat people right. Never miss an opportunity to treat people well. Lifelong personal development and the commitment to personal excellence requires tremendous dedication, discipline, and willpower. Very interesting. If you can wave a magic wand and become absolutely excellent in any one skill, which skill would have the greatest impact on your earning ability? Ooh, that's a hard one. What skill? Probably people. Being a people person. That's very hard because you have to listen. You have to listen rather than talk sometimes, and that takes a lot of discipline to do because we love to talk more than listen. That's the difference between a leader. A leader really needs to have a vision and listen to their crowd and listen to their people. And sometimes they don't do that. And leadership takes a lot of self-discipline, hand in hand. There are 4 stages of development of being a character: employee, supervisor, manager, and leader. These 4 elements, I guess. And you're kind of creating this hierarchy or something like that as you're building up there. There's a lot here, and I'm going to kind of close down here. He has in this about leadership 7 principles of leadership: clarity, competence, commitment, constraints, creativity, continuous learning, and consistency. Those are the 7 traits of a leader. I'm not going to go through all those because there's a lot there. But I think the biggest importance of those 7 is continuously learning, because learning is an open book. Because if you learn, you're making a behavioral change. You're making something much better. You're learning something about everything. In time of crisis, a leader becomes calm, cool, and objective, and completely in control. Part of being a person or an adult, a down-to-earth adult, is that when the times are tough, you're there to be responsible, caring, calm, collective, and he talks about being in control. You gotta be in control of yourself. And that's really what a leader should be too, or an adult, really an adult. Be calm. Show. And that's really what kind of like the idea of this book is that problems do not stop. It is like an ocean wave, never stops. But practice self-discipline, self-mastery, and self-control. So there are always going to be problems in life that are going to come in waves. And you're never going to get done with the problems. You just have to learn to control yourself so you can control them and deal with them coming into shore. And you're the shore. So that's kind of what this book talks about a lot. And there's a lot more to this book. And I'm hoping that you can look into this. There's so much here. And I can take another I could probably take an hour. And I don't want to do that. But there's a lot of interesting things in this book. But I didn't get this book very much. It was probably maybe $8. It was out of Barnes & Noble's. Very good. Very interesting book. And I gave it a try. Anyway, so hopefully you enjoyed. And I will see you in the next one.